Today, my friends, we're going to be here breaking down the mass Electro Dragon strategy, and we're going to be talking about how you guys can use your free spells and find the right base to use Electro Dragons on. So let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what I have here for you guys. So when you guys are using mass Electro Dragon, there are a couple things that you need to factor into your mass Electro Dragon before you actually consider using it. For one, you want to look at the base design. So if we take a look at this base design here, it's pretty compact. There's not a lot of two tile gaps. There's a lot of one tile gaps. I would also consider this one as well, since it's a space and then a wall, and that's still considered a double space. However, there's still a single space right here. So just keep that in mind. But as far as we can look from inside the base, there's just a couple areas here. Of course, we are in a war right now from Sydney's Paradise, so don't worry about the lives going on right now. However, we are looking at the mass Electro Dragon, of course. But one thing is for sure, by looking at these areas here, they're going to not be good for Electro Dragons. However, let's highlight two areas, or at least one area that we can take advantage of right here. This one might be a little bit more difficult because then we have to get our Electro Dragons to target the air sweeper and then chain onto the air defense. So, but this one right here specifically, this is a really good one because it forces our Electro Dragons to stay in. Let me explain why. So if we take a look at this, and of course, like with anything, we want to create the funnel. That's why we're going to be using two heroes, the king and queen, on opposite sides to create the funnel on those two sides. So that's almost going to be step one here. But from what you see, I want you guys to see this side here. What's really important is that when you funnel this out, the Electro Dragons are going to constantly move on the inside and not move on to the outside. Take advantage of that. So take advantage of dead zones that look like that and are on the outside. You can get some really good pathing for your Electro Dragons. Just make sure, though, that you're not hitting bases where it's pretty spread out. Make sure that you're not dealing with that. The next thing to deal with is going to be the air sweepers. The air sweeper placement is always going to be extremely important with anything, as Electro Dragons are really slow and they have to charge up in order to deal damage. Yeah, it's not that long, but they have to charge up in order to. So, of course, those air sweepers are going to really be a nuisance to that. So, if we take a look at both of these air sweepers here, one of them is going to be pointed this way and the other is going to be pointed this way, which means this is going to be our entry point here. The main reason is because we're going into the blind spot of both air sweepers that allows us to get some sort of chain value from them. Now, you also may be asking about the free spells. The free spells jobs are to freeze up those defenses, specifically being air defense, anything that targets air specifically. And actually just putting that into a more specific term, you really want to try and freeze up the expos and also the air defenses as much as possible. Since air defenses do a lot of damage and expos also do a lot of damage, it's actually going to be a really good thing to freeze up. And you're going to see throughout the next few examples that we have on exactly why you would use the freeze or even bring freeze in the first place. So, like with anything, you want to make sure that you are getting a funnel out of your attack. So by using at least one Electro Dragon and one hero on either side, it's going to make it a little bit easier to get some sort of value from the funnel. Now, as you're starting to move into the base, you want to space out your rage spells. So you can use two rages at the beginning. The rage spells are really good for the Electro Dragon since it boosts them right through. Make sure, though, that you are using your rage spells as careful as possible. Be very patient. This is a very patient attack. It's slow, which means that you have to be really patient with your rage spells. You can't go all willy-nilly at the start. So just remember, though, as well, is you have the Grand Warden, and you want that Grand Warden to go in with your Electro Dragons to keep them alive as they move throughout the base, more specifically towards the Eagle. So as you're starting to move into the Eagle, the first volley of Eagle shots, you're going to pop the Grand Warden's ability to keep them alive. You don't want any of them, or at least most of them, to die at the beginning. Now, another thing is, you also want to bring a bunch of Electro Dragons within your, or not a bunch of Electro Dragons. You want to bring an Electro Dragon in your Stone Slammer. A level 4 Electro Dragon is amazing. It is so strong at really any town hall that you can get it, just because it does so much damage and it has a little bit more health than a level 3. So it is a very good option to bring for the Stone Slammer, so that then anything else that's left, it will be able to take out. So there's obviously there's that. So just make sure that you are considering a lot of different factors. And I hope that this first example shows you guys the right base design, because sometimes you guys hit bases where with this strategy where they're a little bit more spread out, and you know it's going to fully counter it. So just consider that as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at another example with Mass Electro Dragon. So here we go, guys. We've got this base design here, and it does look a little bit different. Of course, the air sweepers are different, but let's also consider where our entry point is going to be. So where would you hit on this base? Knowing where the air sweepers are being placed and where the air sweepers and where the air defenses are, this also means that where is the rest of your value going to be? Well, if we take a look at this base design, there are a couple things. So, of course, we have a lot of storages here, which storages can really slow down our attack. So we've got to make sure that we are considering where those are at. So we want to also consider air sweeper placement. So that's always going to be a factor here. It does not matter. So we want to make sure that we are entering into the blind spot. So we don't want to hit from the sides, but we can hit from the bottom. However, we don't want to put an Electro Dragon on the Town Hall, because that's just going to really slow it down, and we really don't want that to happen. So instead, what we want is we want to be able to hit from an area where we can create a good funnel and lead our Electro Dragons into the base, even if one doesn't, even if one does not go in with the rest. As long as we have a couple going in, then that's really going to help us a lot. So the freeze value in this case would be stuff such as air defenses and multi-infernos, since we're going into the multi-infernos first. But remember that we are hitting primarily into the air sweepers' blind spots. Now, another thing is, what about the freeze spells? The freeze spells in this case can also be used against the queen. You don't want that extra DPS on your Electro Dragons, so freezing her up after a chain is going to really work well for your attack in general. Since this is almost like any dragon, however, because of how slow they are at attacking, it only gives that queen, the enemy queen, free range to continuously hit your Electro Dragon. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to take a look at this example, and I just want you guys to really learn from that. And Mass Electro Dragon really isn't that hard. It's not a complicated attack strategy to learn. Just make sure that you are knowing the pathing of the chain, and that's going to be extremely important as well. If we pause it right here, where do you think that chain is going to go? So right now, one of the things that you need to understand is that when it chains diagonally. After this, it stops right here. So just keep that in mind. So if we play this right here, notice that it doesn't go again. So that means that it's going to stop there after those 3 defenses are taken out. But that's just something you got to remember always when you guys are using Electro Dragons. But once you've done so, you can now send your Electro Dragons in and loons from behind. That way you can then start sending in your rage spells. So you want to send one rage for one group and another rage for the other group. So notice the air sweeper, the freeze placement in this case. We're freezing over the multi, we're freezing over air defenses, we're freezing over the queen, we're freezing over extra value, including the air sweepers. But just notice all the value that we're getting from our chain. Despite, there be a couple compartments that have a double spaced compartments, it's not going to be that bad, since we can still get through a large portion of the base with the rage spells nice and timed throughout the base, keeping the Electro Dragons supported, and also trying to make sure that we are getting value from their chain. And that's extremely important. But this shows you guys really how strong this actually is. Whether or not you like Electro Dragons or not, this is still a really strong strategy, but you need to understand it before you actually start using it. We've got one last example to teach you guys the power of this attack so that then you guys can replicate really almost any attack that I showcase here. So let's go and take a look at the next example. So here we go, guys. On this base design here, you may already notice the sweeper placement. And yeah, they're on one side of the base, so that's really important. But not just that, but you also may notice from the army composition is that there is a clone spell. We're going to see that with the loons from the Stone Slammer to have even more loons as well. So when we're taking a look at a base design for this, one of the things that you really need to understand is that you want to make sure that you're looking at the air sweepers, and you also want to make sure that you're looking at how the base is designed based on the spaces. So if there's a lot of single space between if they're touching, or if there's one tile in between, that's really good. But then if there's two tiles, just remember that that is not going to be good. If we take a look at this base design right here, there's like one dead zone by the Infernos, and that's about it. A large portion of the base can be chained. All we have to do is really make sure that we are creating a funnel here, and we're creating a funnel here, so then we can send our Electro Dragons in along with the Stone Slammer. That way we're getting value from our loons, our cloned loons as well, from that Stone Slammer. So as we watch this one here, we want to make sure that we are paying attention first off at the funnel. So we want to make sure that we are getting a good funnel set. So notice that we have the king and the queen on that side. They're going to get some value and start walking down this direction. We want them to, so that then we aren't fighting the air sweepers going in this way. We don't want to go in this direction here. We want to go behind that area. So we want to make sure that we are getting that value. So notice how we are making sure that our queen and king are walking this direction, so that then we're not having to go in this area here. We want to stick to where that is below. That's really, really going to be important. So now notice that as we are starting to send everything in, we want to make sure that we're using 2 Electro Dragons to create the funnel, as long as there may or may not be the king still up. But as long as we've stopped with the Sui hero, we can then start sending everything in with the balloons, the Electro Dragons, and also the Stone Slammer. So as we're sending everything in, we want to make sure that we are raging them up throughout the base. You notice earlier that we did have 3 or 4 rage spells in our army composition. Now we only have 3, so we got to really space them out, make sure that we're getting the most amount of Electro Dragons as much as possible. Then we have the Stone Slammer of loons and the cloned loons as well, and that's where we're going to haste them up to get more value. But look at all of the chain value that you're seeing from right here. You may see a lot of them go down, but the chain value is incredible on this base, and it just gets a lot of value. Now, with anything, it's always going to be on a different base. And on the next replay, I want to show you guys a little bit of an almost failed attack, so that then it gets you guys to understand the importance of creating a funnel, and not just that, but also making sure that you are looking at the base design correctly if you plan on using Electro Dragons or not. It's a great way to really pick off a base in terms of, alright, which strategy would be more effective. And it's really going to come down to air sweeper placement. So keep this in mind when you guys are using Electro Dragons. You can't hit every base with Electro Dragons. You have to predict, or actually not just predict, but you have to make sure that you're taking a look at the base design before you even attempt to think of a strategy. So let's go ahead and take a look at that last example. So in this example here, what you're going to see is that the Electro Dragons are barely, I can't say not, they're barely going to get the triple here, because one of them, it was on a sliver of health from the Grand Warden's altar. So this is a good case in which not every base design can work against, or not every base design is going to be weak to Electro Dragons. So it may be a 2-star strategy, but don't expect a 3-star every single time with Electro Dragons. Now, on this base design here, the entire inside of the base can be chained. So that's a really good thing right here. That entire area could be chained. However, there's one small detail that we gotta think about. It's the air sweepers. So if we take a look at them, mostly this air sweeper here, that thing is gonna push back our Electro Dragons, of course. So looking at how it's going to be covering here, we want to create the funnel here so that then we could send the Electro Dragons behind that. It's okay if some of them go in, but like if they go into that radius, but As long as we're keeping that area like away, then we're fine. We can send everything in here. But here's the issue. In this example, the Electro Dragon creates the funnel here. And that means that they're going to be fighting the Air Sweeper for almost the entire duration. So that's really where it's going to be causing some problems. Got to use your free spells most likely then over the Air Sweeper, so that then it prevents it from sweeping away the Electro Dragons. So there's just a couple things that you really need to understand with this. For one, as well, is that you've got the enemy queen, or I'm sorry, not the enemy queen, your Sui hero. That's going to be there to create the funnel. That's why on one side you've got the queen and the other side you've got the king. But you got to make sure that you're starting the king one first if you're going to be, you know, if you're taking a look at the Air Sweeper, which we are going to keep selected so that then you guys can see. I'm starting to stutter on my words here, so I'm sorry guys. But making sure that you are being patient with your funnel is important, but make sure that you are knowing where those Air Sweepers are, because those will help. Notice that the king isn't nearly getting as much of a funnel as possible, since there's still a lot of buildings up on this direction right here. So that means that a lot of those Electro Dragons are still going to be moving into the base. Even if we have the Stone Slammer, the Stone Slammer to cut off the funnel here, we still have a good amount of the Electro Dragons moving in here and also in this direction here. But I'm not saying that it was a terrible attack. Notice that we're still getting a lot of value, but the Air Sweeper was definitely pushing back our units, really making it difficult. But if we still take a look here, is that we are still going to get value from that portion there. However, there's a lot of expos in that core spot where that queen was, meaning that it is going to be fairly difficult. Another thing is we're using our clone spell to get up more loons. You noticed that a little bit earlier, but you'll see that we are slowly running out, and here's the reason why. The expo farm. That expo farm is extremely powerful. That thing is really hard to stop, especially with Electro Dragons. They do a lot of damage. But you can still see here is that we are still going to get some sort of value from the Electro Dragon. So, of course, like with anything, this is a great 2-star strategy, and I would even say that sometimes it can triple. Not every time you will see it triple. In this case right here, it's an easy 2, but notice that a lot of those Electro Dragons move, and just look at how close this was. Just a sliver of health left. The last thing alive is the Grand Warden's altar, and by looking at this, it was only one shot away from taking out the Electro Dragon. Sliver of health left, so very close. But that's gonna do it, guys, for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and also learned something from this video, learning those Electro Dragons and how they work. So definitely feel free to let me know if you guys want to see another video on this, and I'll bring it to you guys. Also, feel free to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you guys don't miss anything, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description, and join my community Discord if you guys want to be able to chat with fans and even myself. I am active on my server, and feel free to join any of the clans I'm covering in the description below. With that being said, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Corrupt, signing out.